Hi, my name's Lyle Sopel, and you're here in my studio, and I'm demonstrating how I'm working on my latest project, and I'm working on the design aspect of how this might work together here on this crystal form. So, believe it or not, these are Canada geese. Let me just show you here how I intend to put them together as birds. You see, I've created the body of the bird, and I'm going to add on a separate part, the head. And this is also jade, so this is all jade. This is a jade project here. And I've got some elements here that will be put in together like on pins, like so. And so with that, you get this idea of how the bird might be positioned on this quartz crystal base. So the base below it is jade, the birds themselves are jade, and there's a beautiful green tint to the crystal, which I just really love, and that's sort of the inspiration for this piece is the base and the really exotic quartz that is with that little green tint to it, so really fun to work with this one. And Canada geese, they're one of my favorite birds. I love them. I see them around here all the time. And I know some people really don't like them because they're kind of a pest and they mess up your garden and stuff like that. But I really like working with them. So I can see we've got like feet and that's how it's going to be. Now I want to demonstrate how I'm going to put the feather pattern on this piece. So I'm going to go over to the workbench and we're going to do some of that. But before we get too far into my demonstration, I wanted to tell you about the special announcement that I'm going to make today. So be prepared for that. And also I want to share some ideas on the way we talked about how to make money in your studio. So we came up with a great idea on making bears and creating them in a sequence, and then we're going to present them to our clients. So I want to talk about that as well, on how to create money in your studio and how to make a living as an artist. So let's talk about the fun thing here, about putting this piece together, the creative part. So this is just really the beginnings. Now we've got the thing fitted together, and as you see, I make it separately, and then I drill holes and put a pin in there. And I will use a glue with a graphite added to it, so it'll be a black glue, so the seam of the glue won't show. And that's something I do really well with the black jade, and it doesn't. You can't tell the difference between the black jade and the seam. Now, last week I was working on on this piece, which is a cardinal made out of ruby, black jade, and agate. So I polished it, and I don't know, ruby is really a tough thing to polish because it's a crystal, and it tends to require an extra amount of sanding in order to get the surface clean enough to polish. But as you can see, I put this together with the glue, and there's also a pin in there, so it's put this thing together nicely. And I'll show you here how the tail will work. So there you have it. And this is his partner that hasn't yet been sanded, and you can see the difference, so you can tell that they both have a little bit more to go before they're totally complete. And I've got a wonderful base for it that's made out of jade, so it's going to be a really nice combination of the colors. So something I love to work with. Birds, my favorite subject of all time. So love to share it with you too. These are some of my most cherished kinds of things that I do. But in order to take this piece a little bit further, what I need to do is texture the feathers. So as you see, we've cut these feathers so that they're individualized, and I've done that with a tool that's similar to this. let me just reach over and I'll show you. It's this shape that we've used to cut the feather. So we just cut in and around and made a mark into that surface there. So we've cut them, then smoothed the surface, and then let me just show how the feather pattern works. Now this really brings a lot of life into the piece by doing this. It really shapes and adds to the feathers. So every feather has a line like this, and so every feather will get this treatment and beyond, so we can add other feathers to this array here that gives more of the sense of the detail. So I just sketch them in like this in a pattern that adds to it. Try to think of them as separate feathers as I work. And I try to remember that it's not the cut that makes the feather, it's the lead between them that makes the feather, as you can see. It's starting to come. So there's a process. It's something like drawing with a pencil. And after I put all the feather pattern into it, like this, then I will sandblast it. Then I will sand it again with a very fine grit, like a 600 grit to 800 grit. And then polish it. So all of these parts will have this, all the head part, and that will be cut out with and put a white piece of jade in there to really distinguish it as the Canada Goose. So that's what I'm working on today, along with a few of the other projects that are going on. But as I've said before, that's what I really like. I love to have a variety of things going on all the time, and it keeps my creative mind creative because you're always involved. When I come to the studio, I'm always involved with the creative process. So I had a friend come in the other day, and he said, you know, we're all in the same business. And he said, you know, he was a designer, and he said that to be a good artist can't work. You can't be just a good artist. You have to be an amazing artist. And I just thought, wow, that's the greatest way to think about how to find success or be successful as an artist. Is if you think of yourself as being good, then, you know, there's a lot of good people out there, but to be successful and great, you have to be an amazing artist. And I think that's what I strive to do as an artist, is to be amazing. So I choose all these different materials, and I try to work with it to my utmost ability. So I think in order to be an amazing artist, you really have to create from your heart. And that's when it's true. When your art comes from your heart, then that's what people relate to. And that becomes quite a challenge when you think about being successful and getting money for your art and creating from your heart. Because when you create from your heart, it has absolutely nothing to do with money. There's no way that being a creative person and being truly an artist has anything to do with money. Those two things are completely separate. They can't be in the same room together. So, you know, what do you do about it? You know, I can remember another friend was sharing a story just the other day about some bluesgrass musicians that back in the early 60s, it was a new form of music, and the radio stations in the southern United States opened their doors to any kind of new music. Like bluegrass wasn't known then, and so radio stations said, well, let's broadcast any kind of new music, any kind of folk music, anything that we could get together. So they made that announcement to the public, and people came from all over the place. They drive for days to get to radio stations that would play their music. And these guys were, they played for fun. They played for the love of playing it, and they just saw this as another opportunity to play music in a way that they could share it with more people. So they'd go to these radio stations, they'd come in live, and they'd play their music live on the radio. And they just had the best time doing it. Often, these people would walk out of the radio station and not ask for any money. And the radio station people would have to call them back in and say, hey, you guys, you did a great job. We've got a record from what you did, and we're going to give you some money. So this was like a second thought. And so you see, when people are sharing as artists or creatives, they're sharing from their heart, and money has nothing to do with it. And that's the time that it's always the best. But this is the problem. In order to be successful, you must learn some way to deal with business in order to be successful, to collect or to trade your art for money. So, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, galleries know this about artists. They know that artists share from their heart. To a gallery, art is business. To an artist, art is sharing. So, somehow, we have to learn how to be successful through business. And there's a little technique that I've learned for myself. And I think of myself in third person when I go to a gallery to sell my art. I think of the Sopel guy as the creative guy, and then I think of the Sopel businessman. So I separate myself from these two aspects of what I do for a living. So the Sopel guy creates from his heart, but the other Sopel guy creates for, or does business for the artist. And I can speak separately for myself. There's just a little mental trick I do. And you might want to try it someday. Just kind of divide your awareness of yourself into two people, the artist and the businessman. And it's totally fine. It's a way to deal with it. So, I know I mentioned in my announcement that there's 3 ways that you can feel more comfortable when you're trying to sell your art. So this is another technique that works like crazy. It's really fantastic. It's a thing that you can do every time you're talking about your art to anybody. You can break people down, people groups. Think of people in groups like personalities or attitudes or whatever. Think of people in 3 ways, just 3 basic ways. There's the intellectuals, there's the thrillers, and there's the lovers. So think of an intellectual as a person that wants information about you when they're talking about your art. They want to know everything. They want to know it all. They want to know all the technical backgrounds. They want to know everything about the stone, if it's a painting or if you're writing or whatever the creative thing is that you've done. They want to know it all. So you be prepared. When you talk to this kind of a person, you come with your information written out, or you come with your printed matter so you can give it to them. What happens is you relate on their level, and that develops a rapport. And with the rapport, you can easily be able to sell your art. So if you're talking to a thriller, that's a person that's really excited. They always come in and, wow, I love this. It's so fantastic. I can't get over how great it is. So what you do with those people is you relate on their level too. You go, yeah, it is beautiful. That one, I really love it too. And through that, you get onto their rapport. And so people that are lovers, they go, oh, I love this. It's so beautiful, so wonderful to be in your presence as an artist, to be looking at this. So you relate the same way. It's so lovely to be with you. It's lovely to be here. So you get what I'm at here, you get on the rapport with the client. So that's 3 easy ways to Make yourself at ease with the client and make the client at ease with you because you're on their level. Okay? So, going through all of this, it brought this memory I had of working in the studio. And this was a few years ago now, quite a few years ago. But I was working as a pretty successful artist. I mean, I was producing pieces that I was able to sell easily, and I was making an income. I was paying my rent. I had a home that I was renting. I was paying the rent on the home, and I had money in the bank, and I was doing pretty good. I wanted more, of course. I wanted more, but I was making a living at what I was doing. So I'd be like really enjoying this. I'd be in the studio working away, and all of a sudden I get this like panic attack. I'd get like this anxiety attack that would just rage over me, and I could hear my father's voice saying, "Son, you better get a job." And I think, man, I've got to get out of here and get a job. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm sitting here in my studio, wasting my life away, having the best time in the world, but I'm not contributing to society. I'm not like doing it. And I could always remember my father saying, "You better get a job." So, that's got to be like the worst thing that can happen to you is you have this feeling that, you're shamed, or, you feel like, you feel guilty about enjoying the work that you do. And from shame to guilt to not good enough, you're not really contributing to the world, and you're only doing your art, and you're not good enough to do like a regular job. You're not a lawyer, you're not an engineer. My father always wanted me to be an engineer. You're not, a doctor or whatever it is. But you know what? Each one of those professions I just rattled off, I'm sure, would love to be able to do what we do as creatives, is to be able to share from our heart. Every time we sit down to do our work in the world, as we share from the heart. That is, like, I think it's one of the most important professions there is in the world, is to be creative and share that creativity with the world. So, there's these things I'm calling myths, these ideas that are implemented in our brains by our upbringings, and they're part of like our society around us, where things like artists have to struggle in order to make a living. So these things are conditions of the mind. These are things that we have to be aware of as an artist. In order to be successful, we have to know that these things exist for us and put them aside. Like my father's voice, I had to put that aside. That's my own conditioning. That's like some kind of a myth that's not true at all. And this idea of being not good enough, like if you have this feeling of not good enough as an artist and you try to sell your work, the seller's going to feel your vibration. They're going to say, well, I feel that guy's not good enough. And the truth is, you're going to feel the same way, and you're going to not be able to get the same amount of money that you want for your art. That's the way it is. So you have to get over that some way. So, I feel so strongly about this that I've been working for months now, coming up with ideas on a way to share this with you. So I've come up with a book, actually, and it's called The Insider Secrets to Starving Artist Myths. And I created this book, 10 Insider Secrets to the Starving Artist Myths. And what this is just like, it's an idea, it's a concept that brings your awareness to what's around us and what's influencing us as an artist. And this is something I truly feel is important. You have to have an awareness of these kinds of things in order to succeed in any form of business or any form of art. You must go beyond where we are. We need to know that these things affect us and be able to put them aside. So, because we've been working so hard at this, this is going to be for sale on Amazon, but for you, for people that have been fans on my Facebook page here, we're going to give this to you. This is yours. If you want it, it's yours. You can just go to globalartsvision.com and /Ask Lyle. You can go to that web page and you can download this book for free. It's totally yours with no cost at all. So that's my gift to you. That's my surprise. So I just wanted to be able to share that with you. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do is, because we've been talking the last week or so about this thing that we've got going on in the studio about a project on how to make money, like this process of how to create things to sell. And so what we've done is created some bears, and I know we've talked briefly about this, and so I just want to show you that they're coming along fine. We've got a series of bears in the studio that have worked out really well. So my intention here is to, this is how we break it down. This is how we break it down to the bear project. So my intention is to share one of these ideas on how the process works with you every week. So first of all, you get the idea, and we're talking about the idea about why I want to create bears. So I've got a great idea and a true experience that I want to share about bears. So that's the idea. Then you go with that idea to your list of clients or people that have interest in your work. And then you go to your studio and you produce these pieces with love. You produce them with sincerity and create some art. And then you share that with your list, your group of people here that love your art. So you share that with them. And then you follow them up. You follow up and you ask them how they love the work or whatever, and then they'll buy it. They'll just fall in love with what you're doing, and you end up with money in your bank account. So every week I want to share some idea about how this project works out, and so in the end you'll get a great way to do this. And it can work with anything. It doesn't have to be a bear project. It can be any kind of project that you feel you are wholeheartedly working with. So, but there's one thing. If this is a process that's new to you, you're going to stumble across something. There's going to be some part of this project. It's either the idea, or how do you put a list together, or how do you follow up with clients. There's going to be something that's going to trip you up. And I promise you, it's going to be from the myth. The thing that says, no, I'm not good enough. You're going to come across the list and go, I don't know how to make a list. This guy's full of crap. I'm not going to do what he says. That's the myth. It says you're not good enough, or, no, this is too easy. Look at that, it's so easy. It's just like 6 simple steps to make money. That's not how artists do it. They struggle. They work hard to do their thing. You know what? You're just going to go back to the old way you did it all the time before and ask yourself, was that successful? I say, if it was, carry on. If it isn't, you need to upgrade a little bit and open your mind to a new idea. So that's what I want to share. I want you to go to the new website, Global Arts Vision, and download this book and get familiar with what they are. Okay. Thanks for globalartsvision.com with Ask Lyle. Okay, so thanks for joining me. See you next week. Bye for now.